Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Wildcast. I'm your host, Calvin Coyles. I'm joined by the beautiful Roxanne Chaput from Ontario, Canada, originally from the United States as well. And Roxanne's a life coach. She's also an inspirational speaker. And today we get to talk about her journey as a coach and also how she started a business and then what that looks like there for her moving forward. So, Roxanne, wonderful to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Calvin, for having me on.
Yeah, appreciate it. Well, look, why don't we get started with your origin story, so to speak? How did you become a life coach? We tend to find that most of the clients that we work with and most of the people that I interview on the show are sort of turning their pain into their purpose, so to speak. So I'm interested to know what that journey was for you and how you discovered life coaching and what was that backstory?
Absolutely. So ever since I was a little girl, I had this deep knowingness inside of myself that I was meant to do something more. I knew that I was meant to have an impact on humanity. I just didn't fully understand what that was. I was always kind of considered myself as a light worker, an energy healer. A lot of people just tended to come to me to resolve their issues or to guide them in certain aspects of their life. And that, from family to friends, from patients that I worked with in the cancer center, from people that I just met on the street, my energy just naturally gravitated people toward me. And I went through a lot of trials and tribulations. I went through a lot of toxic relationships. I had a lot of near-death experiences. And I just had an aha moment that why was I not helping the world? Why was I just limiting myself to people that I would encounter on the street or my family and my friends? And that's when I decided that I actually had a gift. I didn't know that that was my gift, but that was my gift all along.
Wow, that's amazing. There are a couple of things I want to explore there. Obviously, I'm quite well versed in what it means for me to be, quote unquote, a light worker or an energy healer. But I'm interested to get your vibe on that. What does that mean to you? Because it's a word that people, or it's a phrase that people chuck around quite liberally now. But I think it means different things to different people.
Right. So for me, a light worker, I'm very soulful. I believe in energetic fields and so forth. To me, a light worker is my job as a light worker. There's a range of what different light workers do. Their mission is all different. For my mission, I consider people's light is their energy. So some people have dark energy, some people have light energy. And my job as a light worker is to either bring them, so I say I have someone that has a dark energy, my job as a light worker is to bring them into the light so that their energy becomes lighter. And then for people that have a very bright light, my job is to dim their light a little bit so they don't burn out on both ends. So that's what I consider my light working purpose.
Okay, excellent. And with regards to that, sort of dimming that light so they don't burn out, when I think about that in terms of a metaphor, let's say, for example, of a candle, right? Obviously, a candle burns brightest when there's more fuel, right? Now, it only burns out when it runs out of fuel, not because it burns really brightly. Obviously, by burning brighter, you're using more fuel. So I get that reference point. So how important is that then from a sustainability standpoint? And I imagine that's a bit of the stuff that you do in terms of coaching. If you've got somebody that is burning brightly, for want of a better choice of words, what are you doing in terms of your coaching practice to help that person sort of sustain that energy?
Right. So I find when I have clients that are burning at a very high energy frequency where they're almost at a burnout because they're doing everything and they're giving their energy and they're dispersing their energy everywhere. I think it's very important to ground them and to humble them and to bring them back down to meditation and to reground themselves so that they don't burn out. So I have processes and steps that I ask them to do in order to make sure that they're focusing on themselves and not just burning their energy, giving it to everybody else. And that's what we tend to do as we serve others. And when we serve others, we tend to forget to serve ourselves. So that's my job, is to remind myself as well and to remind others that are burning bright to make sure to dim down sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Talk to me about some of these near-death experiences, obviously, if you preferred to. I think that life has a very interesting way of course-correcting people. And I was speaking to a client of mine just the other day, and he's going through not a near-death experience, but the death of his business. And I said, you know what? The reality is that this is either a sign for you to fight for this, right? Or it's a sign that it's not meant for you and you're meant to be doing something different with your life. And you've probably been aware of those signs for quite some time, but you haven't been listening to them, right? And so there's a sense of going, hey, the universe is trying to get you on a certain path. If you're not going to listen, it'll force your hand. And so that's my belief system. I'm not sure if it's yours, but I imagine it would be. Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about some of those moments of redirection.
Right. So I am like you just said, like I'm a big believer is that if we don't find our life's purpose, or we don't find our, like we don't follow our soul's calling, that the universe will orchestrate things in order to wake us up and have that awakening and to guide us on the right path. And, you're not on the right path. So I'm going to give you this until you start listening to me, because you know, I believe that if we don't, like I said, like I don't, like if we don't follow our calling, catastrophic things will happen until we have that awakening period. And that's kind of what happened to me, is I was just so busy helping everybody else that I wasn't staying true to myself. And, you know, I ended up in toxic relationships, and, you know, I went over a cliff and I almost died. And then I hemorrhaged to death 3 different times, and I lived. So all those things were awakening periods for me. Like every time it happened, I was a little bit more awoke. But then the last time when I hemorrhaged, I was like, oh my goodness, like I need to listen. Like, what are you telling me? Like, and then I did a year of self-discovery, just, you know, following my soul and the soul's mission, and just stay true to myself. I was alone, and I just really tried to find my calling.
Yeah. Wow. I think there's a beauty in that, isn't there? Where it's like, I'm clearly still alive for a reason. And so it's like you don't get that many chances unless you're destined for something, right? Like so many times you hear of people that, you know, unfortunately have an accident and they're not here anymore. So it's like, if I'm still here, it means my work's not yet done. I was having a conversation with a client. I'm interested to know your take on this. It's not something I normally ask, but it just came up literally yesterday. She was talking to me about how she believes that she's here for a purpose. And it was her belief system, which was that, hey, if I don't listen to this purpose, it's like there's somebody in the world that is needing help and support. And then hence spirit has connected me to say, hey, you need to go and help this person, right? But if you don't listen to that calling, spirit will then give that calling to somebody else if you're not going to show up, because they still need to serve that person. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting in the sense of, you know, do you feel as though when someone has that sort of innate destiny in their lives to be a light worker, to help somebody improve their lives, there's obviously a calling beyond just one person, right? Like there's a broader calling, but do you feel as though there's a sense of you get a certain number of opportunities here, and if you're still not listening to it, we're going to just pass this buck on to somebody else that's going to be prepared to open up to that same mission?
I do partially believe in that, but I also do believe that our purpose is our purpose, our destiny is our destiny, and the people that we're meant to serve is we're meant to serve. But I do also believe that if we turn away an opportunity from the law of the universe, that opportunity will arise to someone else, and it will go to someone else. And I also believe that everything happens for a reason, right? Our timing, everything is instinctual. It happens when we're ready for it. And if you're not ready, you can't serve someone else. And if you're not awoken, you can't serve somebody else. It's not going to work, right? Because you don't have the knowledge. The knowledge is power, and knowledge is your armor, and your knowledge is what pushes you forward, and that's your power. So if you don't have that, and you haven't had those experiences, it's really hard to be in that moment if it hasn't come to you yet.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned as well, Roxanne, about toxic relationships. And I think relationships are probably one of their primary healers of awakening, right? Like nothing hurts as much as that if you get it wrong, but nothing is as good as that if you get it right. Talk to me a little bit. If you get it right. Talk to me a little bit about some of the lessons that, not just that you've learned, but from your clients as well, around the difference between a toxic relationship and sometimes how we attract that for the lessons that come to us, right? Or that we do attract that for those lessons. And you talk a lot about as well enlightened relationships and the importance of forgiveness. So I'd love for you to explore that a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm actually certified in enlightened relationships. And what an enlightened relationship is when somebody has a knowingness of themselves and that they're always willing to self-improve and to work on themselves to be the best version of themselves. And when you have two partners that are willing to do those things, that becomes an enlightened relationship. And they both want the relationship, and they both want to allow each other to grow, and they support each other's growth. They never diminish each other. The arguments are there's no arguments between an enlightened relationship. It's more of, I hate to say compromise, because it's really not. A relationship is more of negotiation, you know, like I'll do this and then you do that, more in that sense. But so that's pretty much an enlightened relationship. And a typical relationship, which, you know, or a karmic relationship, which I was, you know, in countless times, stemmed from having a father that was absent in my life. And I was always looking for that father figure. And this happens with a lot of my clients as well. Or it's the mother that was missing from their life. And then, you know, it kind of goes back.
It manifests.
Right. It manifests. And I found that I never believed in myself. I never loved myself the way I should have. And I think a lot of us don't. And we don't know how to, because we weren't properly given the tools to do those things.
Yeah.
And we weren't properly explained how to share our emotions and how to express our emotions. And if we're lacking something, that we can find it within ourselves and not find it in someone else. And that's what happens when you get into those types of relationships. It becomes toxicity because it's dependability, and then it becomes an addiction, right? It's a love addiction. You're always in turmoil, and it just becomes very unhealthy. So I think a lot of people suffer from a typical relationship or from, you know, a toxic relationship, and may not even know, and may just think it's normal because that's what they've seen their entire life. They've seen their parents have that relationship. They've seen their neighbors' friends have that relationship. Like, from movies to TV, like it can range from anywhere where they've gotten that mindset and that belief system.
100%. Talk to me about what you consider the importance there of forgiveness, not just of the other person for any wrongdoings, but also for yourself as well. I know we work with a lot of women, and I know there's naturally a sense, and this tends to happen more with women than it does with men. In my experience, which is that you leave a bad relationship and then you beat yourself up for being in a bad relationship. It's like, why did I not know the signs earlier? It's like, well, if you knew, you probably wouldn't have done the same behavior. And if you did know the signs and you went into it anyway, clearly there's some subconscious stuff that you need to work through. But I think that, you know, what I normally say is beating yourself up doesn't make it any better. It actually lowers your self-worth. So you're going to attract somebody else, anybody that's going to be the same. So talk to us about the importance of forgiveness in that process as a healing tool to sort of transcend.
Absolutely. And I just want to touch base on that too, Calvin, because vibration, right? I believe in the laws of the universe and the law of vibration, and what we vibrate our frequency at is what we attract. And that becomes not just in what we attain for our lives, but that becomes in our life partners or our partners that we select for our life. If we're vibrating at a low energy and we don't love ourselves and we don't believe in ourselves, and, you know, we don't believe that we're worthy of love, we're going to attract that partner that's going to coincide with that belief system. And as we raise our energy and our vibration, that's when we start attracting an enlightened relationship, because now you're radiating at a higher frequency.
Yes.
So I just kind of wanted to touch base a little bit on that. And then for forgiveness, I believe that we're all human. We all make mistakes. Hindsight is 20/20, of course, but we don't have that knowledge beforehand. We're not seers. We're not, you know, we don't have the psychic ability. Like, a lot of us don't tap into that. But how are we supposed to know? And I think that every mistake that we do leads us to something better and leads us to something more. And without making those mistakes and having those expectancies of us to be perfect is unrealistic. And I think when we become in relationships and we make those faults and we choose those wrong partners, or, you know, are in the wrong situation, then we learn from that. And then we learn the signs, and it's knowledge, and you can't always attain knowledge just by reading books. Sometimes you have to experience it. And then once we experience that knowledge, then once you have the knowledge, you can never unforget it. Right. Once we have that mindset, once we have, the intelligence of it, like, you can never forget what you know.
Yeah, it's like Einstein said, right? A mind that's been expanded will never contract its old way of thinking. So I think that the sort of growth and the self-expansion that comes with that is never a bad thing. It's always expansionary. It might not be comfortable, but that doesn't mean to say it's wrong, right? So talk to me about building. Sorry, you go.
No, and growth is never comfortable. Like, think about our physical growing pains when we were kids. Like, it's never been comfortable. Like, growth is never comfortable. But when we get there, it's like, oh, like, it's a peace. And it's like, okay, I made it. Like, I'm strong. Like, you realize what you're made of when you go through change and when you grow.
Yeah. So how long ago was it for you that you made the decision to go into coaching, even if it wasn't, full-time into coaching, but just you started to move into that space? How long ago was that?
That'd be about 5 years now, and then almost 2 years of having my business.
Oh, congratulations. That's amazing. So
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about that journey, because we obviously work with a lot of coaches around the world that are looking to get into that space, that are at the very beginning origin stories of that process, and they've identified their calling. And of course, they're going through and doing certifications and trainings and that sort of stuff. But talk to me about what that journey was like for you of starting this business and making a living from doing light work.
Well, it's been a challenge.
Yeah.
You know, it's challenging. It's challenging starting a business on your own, especially if you don't have any business background. Like, thankfully I did, but most life coaches don't have a business background, right? And I think that we need to let up on ourselves and be a little bit easier on ourselves. I think that we have these expectations that we're going to be successful within 60 days, 90 days. That's not realistic. Okay. It takes years for many people to build an empire or to build a solid foundation to a business. A lot of it, even through the social media world, like, you have to build relationships and rapport with people before they become clients. That doesn't happen overnight. That trust doesn't happen overnight. And I think I just would like people to know that it doesn't happen at the snap of a finger. And just trust your process and don't try and pivot. Like, I see coaches, they're out there, and then, 1 month they're trying this, the next month they're trying that, but they're not becoming an expert in their field. And I think that's, to me, at what I've seen, that's detrimental to your business. I think it's important to become the expert in your field and what what your focus, what your niche is. And then after you've made a name for yourself and you have that expertise, then you can branch off and create another leaf on your tree. And I think a lot of people just like, oh, it doesn't work within 30 days or 60 days or 6 months. Okay, I'm going to change. Well, no, because now people are confused. What do you do? What are you an expert in? So that would be.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. So talk to everyone about your business model. So if I was to come to you as a client, what does that look like? Do you do one-on-one? Do you do events and seminars, workshops? Like, what does that business model look like?
Yes. So I do one-on-one work. I do group work as well. And now I'm looking, since COVID has, kind of quieting down here in Canada, I'm looking at probably doing like a huge conference for women. Right. At least 1,000 women, and kind of doing like a holistic thing. Like, I have a lot of partners that I work with, other business entrepreneurs that I work with that are in different fields for women. So we're looking at huge conferences like that and finding their why, like what their purpose is, and kind of so that's kind of where the direction that I'm leading to. And then I'm potentially looking at hosting a television show down the road.
Wow, fantastic. Beautiful. What would the show be on? Have you already got that sort of scripted out?
Yeah, I'm starting to work on the business plan of it, and I'm looking at, soulful. I don't know what the name will be yet, but it's going to be soulful conversations and real talk, kind of more of that direction.
Nice. Have you seen the red table?
Nothing off topic. Nothing off topic.
Nice. I like that. What are the normal clients like? And there's no obviously normal client, but when you're working with a client, what traditionally is the things that people are coming to you for to try and solve? And then the second question on that is, what is the methodology that you will normally use to help them overcome those problems and challenges?
Right. So my niche, really what I love, like, I'm certified in several different things, but my passion is finding their why to their existence. That's what holds true to my heart. That's what holds true to who I am. So that's my dream client. That's the clients I really love to work with. I also work with clients that are going through transformational changes, relationship changes, and like relationships and those sort of things. So I'll just kind of focus on the why to your existence. My methodology is, we all have the answers within ourselves. I had the answer within myself. I'm sure you had your answer within yourself, but we're so conditioned and brainwashed to think that we're supposed to do something else with our life, that we don't stay true to our soul's calling. And we do have the answers within us. So it's just a step-by-step guide. It takes about 6 to 12 weeks, depending on the client and how fast they want to work to get to that answer. Yep. It's just a process and program that I have for them in order to discover who they truly are.
Amazing. What, give me a tool or a metaphor or a technique or something that you would use to help somebody on that process. Like what's a tactic for people to take away and start to utilize in their own lives to see if they can try and get some progress going themselves?
Yeah, so absolutely. So the first thing I work on is belief systems, and truth and lies that we tell ourselves and what we've been told. I break that down because I find a lot of people, that's where it comes from. The answers are already there. And once they start breaking down the conditioning of what, even Disney movies and all those things that tell us what we should do, and there's only 100 career paths you can go down. Like life coaching wasn't even a thing when I was in high school. I'm not sure about you, Calvin, but like life coaching didn't really exist except for Tony Robbins, right? So nobody talked about it. Nobody said that you can help people and serve others. So I find when I work with their belief systems, that's probably my key thing, my key indicator to know how lost they are and how conflicted they are within themselves.
Yeah, great. Fantastic. I love it. Beautiful. Well, if you were leaving the audience that's listening around the world with a message, whether that be a coaching message or whether that just be a personal transformation message, what would be the one thing that you'd like everyone to walk away from this podcast with?
I would love everyone to know, believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. Believe that you have the answers. You have an amazingness inside of you, and you need to let the world see it. Like we all need to be serving the world. The way that the world is going nowadays, like we need energy healers, light workers, anyone who's willing to serve others to come to the forefront and discover, their true greatness that lies within them.
Beautiful. I love that. Fantastic. Well, look, it's been an absolute privilege and a pleasure to have you on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Where can we find out more about you if we wanted to connect in, if we've got clients that want to do some coaching sessions with you to help discover their why and their life's purpose? Where do we find you?
Absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok.
All of the above.
Yeah, all of the above at Life Coaching with Roxanne Chaput. I also have a website as well, Life Coaching with Roxanne Chaput. So anyone that wants to check me out, I'm there.
We'll put all the links up into the show notes as well for everybody as well, so you guys can check it out from there as well. I want to just say thank you so much, Roxanne, for your time today. I appreciate it's late for you over in Canada, so thank you so much for carving out some time for us as well. And for everyone that's watching live and online around the world, whether you're on video, whether you're on the podcast, please leave us a review and a comment. Send Roxanne some love. Of course, go and check out what she's doing as well. And until we see you live or online, be bold, have fun, go make an impact in the world. We'll see you on the wild side. Thank you so much.